Welcome back to Vanillaish Factorio. And there's a mod installed. See, I told you it wasn't completely vanilla. Yep, over here, and please excuse my voice because I'm suffering from a cold still, plenty of honey and lemon, we've installed a bottleneck mod. And that's because this episode is what to do when you've launched a rocket. Well, you could restart the game. If you're someone like Anti-Elites, that's what you would do. However, for the rest of us mortals, well, you probably want to improve your factory. That's kind of the beauty and the sort of, the gameplay of Factorio, really. And that is to improve it, become more efficient, create bigger things, and continue along the research. If you have a look at the research, there's lots and lots and lots and lots of research to go. In fact, where are the bots in here? How far away from bots? Construction robotics is only red and green. So why don't we just, we need to go through flight first and robotics. Why don't we just enable that? Get it going. Now, I did turn off a lot of the more advanced science, so we're not going to get all the packs until I re-enable that, but red and green are absolutely fine. We've left them as they were. Today's going to be more about optimizing things. Now, I did rush through the first 6 episodes, and yes, it was only a 10-hour playthrough. It's not quite as fast as I can do if I'm not concentrating on talking. I have done it in around 4 or 5 hours before, and people can go even faster than that, although that was on an old version. Now, after you launch your rocket, or indeed while you're actually doing this if you don't care about your playtime, you can optimize things. And I wanted to talk briefly about how you do that. Now, some of you may already know how to do this, and for those, I'm sorry. I just wanted to, before I get to sort of more setups, I thought I'd just briefly explain what's going on. So, ideal example here is your green circuits, okay? If you have a look at the green circuit recipe, right here it says it's going to take half a second, that's what the clock thing means, and it will produce one for that. So the title tells you what it will produce. It will take an iron plate and a copper cable. We don't really care about the ingredients, we just care about the fact it will produce one electronic circuit every half second. Okay, now the belts that we output on, like this, carry a certain number of items per second. And generally when I'm building factories up, I'm interested in the number of complete belts that we can actually fill. Completely compressed, no gaps, and you can see this just isn't cutting it. This is not a good belt right now. So how can we solve that? We can solve it by adding more of these, but how to decide how many more of those I added? Now, during the playthrough up to the rocket, I just added more, and you can just do that, you know, as you see them. Just as I did in the playthrough. But we can get a bit smarter than that. Now, the bottleneck mod makes this easy to understand. If it's green, everything's good. Green, good. If it's yellow, it means it's got stuff in its output buffer, i.e. it's got stuff that isn't being taken fast enough from it. It's you know, the stuff just stuck here. Yellow isn't necessarily bad. If you are, if you're producing way more than belts can take away, for example, if we had lots and lots and lots of these assembly machines out all the way out there, and they were jamming a belt full, then you'd have one belt. And it doesn't really matter that you've got some you know, over that, other than you're wasting capacity and power. So, you know, you want to optimize a little bit. And then red means, that, well, red's the bad one, as you might imagine. That means that basically it's idle. It's waiting for ingredients to go into it, and you can see what's happening here. These bottom two are idle, you know, about half the time. And what's really happening here is that you can see, because these are yellow, basically the inserters can't move stuff fast enough from here to here. So if we sped that up, for example here, what you'll see is they're all green. Well, slightly red occasionally, but that's just them fighting for resources a little bit. Other than that, they are mainly green. Okay. Now, that's just by improving the speed of the inserters. So if you're looking around your factory visually, that's how you do it with bottleneck. Nothing more to it than that. Very, very useful mod if you like to work visually. If you like to work mathematically, on the other hand, well, here's the part of the episode for you. So, we know that it takes half a second to produce an electronic circuit. Or does it? If it's in my inventory and I right-click to produce 5, once it finishes with the cable, it will take exactly half a second for each circuit. Good, except that that's not really the case once you put an assembly machine down. the assembly machines all have a crafting speed, and they modify that half second time. So instead of dealing with half seconds, let's just deal with seconds. I get 2 electronic circuits a second. Now, if we have a look at the recipe for the assembly machines, you'll see it says crafting speed at the very bottom, 0.5. What that was actually saying is that basically it runs at 50% of that figure we were just looking at. So instead of doing 2 per second, it does 1 per second. And similarly here, the assembly machine 2 does, instead of 2 per second, it's 1.5 per second, because it's 0.75 times 2. Okay, that makes sense, doesn't it? So what then we need to do is just take that figure, whatever it finally is, 0.75, whatever so class of assembly machine you're using, take 0.75 if we're using assembly machine 2s, and multiply it by that figure, that number of items per second. Just deal with per second that you're working on. So we've got 2 times 0.75, that's 1.5 per second, per one of these. Now, if we know that a belt takes a certain number of items per second, and in 0.16, the current version, that is 13.33 items per second. I know, that's weird. It's just really, really weird. In 0.17, that's been has been changed and rationalized to 15 items per second. For both lanes, that is. So if both sides are full up on one belt. However, it's not 0.16, so there's still this weird figure. It actually works out because yellow belt, let's just put some down. That's not yellow belt, that's yellow belt. And red belt, and I've not got blue yet, but whoops. Red belt runs at twice the speed of yellow. Blue, which is the third tier, does not run at twice the speed of red. It runs at 3 times the speed of yellow. So it's 1 times, 2 times, 3 times, etc. And when you look at the top one, basically blue does 40 items per second. But because this is a third of it, a third of 40 just does not work to any kind of nice amount. You can work to the throughput per minute, and if you do, it's then 800, 1600 and 2400 items per minute. So you can work per minute, and that will give you nice round numbers. I sort of prefer per second, but it's entirely your choice. And it'll be a lot easier to use per second in 0.17, which is not going to be in January, unfortunately. I wish it was. They've got a number of things to finish off. All right then, so what does that mean in actual fact? Well, if we use 13.33, and I have a calculator, I'm so sorry, but I'll do the figures for you. 13.33, and let's divide that by 1.5. That's how many per second, so the amount of items per second on a belt that's maximum, divided by the number of items per second that one of these can produce. And for that we get 8.88888, so basically 9. Now how many have we got so far? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Something's going wrong here. We should have enough assembly machines that belt should be completely compressed. Assuming that we don't run out of ingredients coming into it. So we are running out of copper, I will admit that. Is copper getting all the way to the end? It sort of is. Yeah, it is getting to the end, but maybe slower towards the end. So first of all, you can always optimize the input. The ingredients, do that. However, you'll notice that all this cluster has all the blue inserters, and all the rest don't. And if you have a look at the colours visually, you'll see, for the most part, there's lots of reds flashing, but for the most part, this one is staying green, and these ones are not. And indeed, on the top row, you're looking for all the ingredients, if you like, the intermediate ingredients. A lot of them are yellow. So that means, yeah, everything's piling back. We don't have fast enough inserters. So let's look at the second angle. The second angle is the inserters. You can see I've got yellow inserters here, these first two clusters, and as we've discussed before, they are not cutting it. The output recipe is red a lot of the time, so we can start looking at increasing the speed. Now, this first one, the only thing I've changed really, aside from the inputs here to, I'm not going to worry about these blue ones at the bottom, but here I've changed the yellow inserters to blue. Blue are about 2.8 times faster than yellow. However, there are a lot more than that in power consumption. So if you've got a power problem, don't just put lots of blue inserters down. It's something like, let's have a look, in fact. 13 kilowatts constant drain for yellow, and 46. Yeah, so 46 divided by, what was it? 13? Yeah, 3.5 times more power for less than 3 times speed. However, you can get away with a couple of yellow inserters sometimes, like this. This is 2 yellow inserters going, well, it's splitting this one, essentially. And then we've got blue here as well. If that's still not cutting it, and you'll see these are still red, then we can go to the next one. So now we are getting everything using blue, and we're probably overdoing this middle one, but everything using blue. These are still red. Okay, so why don't we just go to this next one, and then we'll just upgrade these bottom 2. Let's see if it's these 2. Does that get rid of the red? It should do, because everything's on blue over here. If we go back to here, are these staying red off red? Well, they're going red a little bit. Yeah, going red a little bit. So, is there anything other than full blue? What if we go full blue, but we change these to yellow? Will it keep up? Because if it will, we'll save a bit of power just by keeping on yellow for the top line. And I think I've got yellow everywhere on the top line, so that's fine. What we're really looking for is to see if any of these go red. If they do, they're starved, and we need faster input to them. Because this is being pulled by 2 blue here, and that one may go red more often than the others. So, again, we can just fix that. And now, pretty much all of those are working fine. And these, in fact, are mean that the output's blocked occasionally. They go yellow. So, again, we probably need blue on the output. Okay, so for this tier, where all crafting speeds are the same, that's the other thing to worry about. If this is tier 1 and this is tier 2, they will craft at different speeds, and you've got to work that out as well. So it helps if you keep them all the same. They will work perfectly well as is. In fact, these are a little bit starved, but I don't think we can actually... are we going to need to go full blue? Does that improve things? If we just go all the way? Let's have a look. It still seems mostly the same. And we've got enough power, so I'm just going to go full blue for my case. However, this may not be the case for every single recipe that you come across, so do worry about it. Have a think about it. Alright, so we've got roughly a setup that works. Just bear in mind, as you upgrade these, it's likely, particularly with electronic circuits, if I remember rightly, you tend to need to go from 3 to 2 to 3 to 3 in like a block when you get into the higher tiers of assembly machines. You have to rework this out for every tier if you want like a perfect output. You don't have to, but it's just nice to get like a perfect belt. In this case, I'm going to upgrade them all to blue. However, what will probably happen is I will really need to run out of copper. I may get most of a compressed belt, but maybe not. Let's just have a look here. Bots. Are you around? Construction bots. Yeah, we can start research. I'm going to upgrade that. I'll upgrade all of these, and we'll come back. Now, of course, as soon as we actually did that, we starved everything of copper. A red belt of copper is coming in, although it's not compressed either. But it's all being used up. If we have a look at the colours, by here, these are already starved. And we need to get to at least 2 more of these going full belt. So that's not a pun, but yeah, going full speed. And you'll see that we're not far away from getting more compressed. It's better than it was, but we need to actually improve that. So let's go over to our furnaces then. Our furnaces are using steel furnaces, but they're not using our 3rd tier electric furnaces, which of course don't require coal to run, but do require electricity. So if we set them up in parallel, we should be able to carry on or divert. You'll see here I've got a splitter. So we should be able to set priority going right once we've got the new setup in place, and I'll be able to use that to get processing done faster. So to do that, we've already automated electric furnaces as part of the build. So all we need to really do for this is just think about what we want. So if we have the input belt on the inside and then output belts along the outside, we can just run another belt in parallel. Okay. And we have to sort of guess. Well, we can go and calculate it, but if you want to just do it visually, you can guess. And I'm at a red belt, but that's enough for now. And then we'll just put these in. We don't need anything excessive here, and we just need gaps for power poles. So as long as the power poles will fit the gaps, like that, and they will, you can put the furnaces down in between, just like before. So let's just put 6 down. Let's see how they do. Oops. Okay, should be just about long enough. And let's get those hooked up for power. And of course, all of these need to be they're hooked up to the main power network. But other than that, we are fine. Okay, and then main power can come off somewhere. I'm not going to go all the way down to the furnaces. So that's yeah, all the way down to the steam engines, I should say. So let's do that. I was going to mention, by the way, one thing with steam engines is that you'll see I've got a long line of them. At a certain level, you will run out of water. They get used up by the steam engines and, of course, come out the top. So you run out of water probably around about this kind of mark. It decreases to 0. So whenever it does, just hook up another another water line and then feed that into the same line over here, and they will just keep going. So you can just extend steam engines out that way, or indeed create separate runs, but it's probably just easier to feed in the water further along the pipe. Not sure how that will work with a new fluid system that's also coming in 0.17. Bit of a plug for that when it actually comes out. But we should be okay. So in here, we'll just need to feed in stuff. The other advantage of the the electric furnaces is they can take modules. So you can fit productivity modules in and occasionally get extra copper. Thirdly, we can get research for mining productivity, which means these miners, for the same amount of power, will produce us more ore. So make it much, much better as that goes up. So yeah, pretty good all the way around. And yeah, do we want to use yellow here? Well, let's give it a try, shall we? Just let's set it up. Oops. And of course, 2 yellow will be cheaper than blue, but let's give this a go. And we don't actually have to feed the connect up the outputs yet, because these have a large buffer inside of them, and we'll see how well they do. I do, however, need more red belt, and we've got something automated for that. So 1 second, and here we go. Let's just feed this one this way and straight through the center right here. And then these should start feeding. We can just make sure they don't go beyond this point for now. And let's see how well this does. In fact, let's just redirect all of this. Try to redirect right. So all of it's going to go this way. So it's not going to go anywhere. And so we need to actually remedy that just by feeding the outside. Okay. There we go. And then we can re-merge them whenever we want. Same problem though, in that they're feeding onto half a belt each here, so you may want to rework them around halfway around. Give yourself a little bit of a gap, and then rework them. But assuming that we just extend them all the way just to here, just for argument's sake, and then we will send them. Well, we actually want to join them with here, don't we? So why don't we just send one going that way? That'll be our outside lane. And we need to get rid of a rock. There we go. And then our inside lane, we need to merge here with this. And of course, we can take these out once we're happy with the setup. But in the meantime, we just want to be able to merge. That one's going to go underground. I'm going to need another split merge coming up, but this one will do for now. And then we can just feed the other line in here. There we go. And, of course, do remember to connect things. Then I just need to get some more, what is it? Oh, I need circuits. And iron gear wheels. Well, the gear wheels are fine. And indeed, I've got circuits around here anyway, so let's grab some of those. And we should be okay for splitters. Let's make a couple. Pop over here and let's see if they all work. Let's have a look. So, wow, it's making iron gear wheels. There's always a decision on iron gear wheels as well. You can put them on main buses. I normally don't, but maybe I should. Yeah, interesting. However, okay. So now we've got inputs and outputs on electric furnaces, and they're all green. So for the moment, we are, and indeed, they're not fast enough yet because nearly a full belt's going through our old furnaces as well. Not that that's a problem, but it does mean that what we can think about doing is extending this array upwards to produce even more copper even. Actually, I'd like to test that because these have got a large buffer inside, so they won't show yellow showing a full buffer until, let's have a look, that's 43, 42, 43, 42. Is that ever going to drop? Yes, hitting 41. So these are still fine as they are. We're still actually outputting faster than they can actually deal with. So that's good. So we can actually extend that outwards. At some point, though, if you improve the speed of these, then they're not going to be able to cope. So we can just carry on with this. And for now, let's just add another set. Okay, that'll bring us up to, what is it, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so 20 electric furnaces. I suspect, given this amount, they're going to have a few issues, but I'll come forwards and then put in some more inserters and get it sorted. Okay, and here we go. Well, here you can see what's happening. What I've done is create an artificial load just by putting stuff in boxes up here, because as I actually create this, the factory that I currently have doesn't use this amount of copper. It basically all piles back. So I've created this just to illustrate the point that even with this number of furnaces, we actually still wouldn't be saturating that belt. And in fact, I can just show you that easily. Do I need some more inserters? Well, let's just actually put these in once it actually starts making more. And at some point, they will run out of the ability to insert, but that may be because the load here isn't taking items off the belt fast enough, rather than actually filling it. So how has this worked out? Well, for normal furnaces, the stone furnace kind, it requires, or rather, you can make, it's about, let's see, what is it? It's about 4 seconds to actually convert ore into metal. These only take 2 seconds. It's like actually 0.57 per second, but you know, it's about 2 seconds for one piece of metal. And if you want to test that, then just have a look here. Yeah, it's sort of about that kind of figure. So if we know that there are 26.66 items per second on a red belt, then we also know that if we divide that by basically 0.57, which is how fast these are running per second, we can get the actual amount. Well, I think I've got the maths right. If someone can correct me below in the comments if I'm not, then we get a figure of like 46.7, or rather 47 furnaces. So this would need to be a lot longer if my factory was up to it. What have we got so far? So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. So yeah, almost double the length here. So what you could do instead is you could, well, build a second array and split things up or something along those lines. So you could have this array extending and then have more furnaces here feeding onto this side of the belt and furnaces on this side feeding onto this side of the belt, and have them all supplying 2 red belts, because then you'd have enough. But you'd have to have this array be long enough. I don't need it that way for the moment, but you may well need that yourself. So just bear in mind, if you have red belt, not yellow, you're gonna need a lot, a lot of furnaces. If you wanted, for example, yellow belt for electric furnaces, that'd be 13.33 divided by 0.57 is going to be 23. So let's say 23.3. So let's say 24. So yellow belt would actually work perfectly fine up here, up to this level, and then we could just combine everything back together, and it would be yellow from that point onwards, and would be fully saturated. I left it as red because at some point I will upgrade them, and I've already got auto red. But in your case, you may want to think about something else. So mining productivity 2 is finished. And on this side, you can see as well that we are, let's just go to 3. It's just using red and green science. Really good use of red and green science actually is using on mining productivity. Just makes these all work much better. And and we get basically compressed belts out of both of them. So I've got 2 copper belts. Realistically, I could probably go to 3 or even 4. I don't really have the space in the space. Even though I made extra space, you always need more space. So if I continue this series, it may be the point where we think of this as our starter base. And yes, I know that sounds crazy, but that's the way Factorio goes. You need more and more and more space. And there's a few ways you can actually link stuff together. Things like trains, things like main buses. Main buses' disadvantage, like for example, this is a main bus, is that when you start off with, let's say, 3 belts here of iron, every time you take some off that bus, it's going to be a percentage of the bus gone. So unless you reorder everything on the bus to be the correct proportions for whatever you're producing, as it takes stuff off, that is, i.e. the stuff that needs the most iron comes off first, and then you make sure the stuff like right at the end, all the way up there, doesn't need a lot of iron, because if it did, you'd never get any iron up there. Because every time we rebalance it with, I mean, I haven't really rebalanced properly, but for example here, this is a proper rebalancer. This is a 3-to-3 rebalancer, so these incoming 3 belts are balanced so that the outcome right here is basically balanced. But you can't really see that because they're all compressed at the moment and piled back, but that will work perfectly well. And main buses have that kind of issue. The other sort of way is sort of modular, in that you sort of move stuff around with stuff like train networks and other stuff like that, or indeed bots if they're close enough. Long-range bots are a bit of a, well, bit of an annoyance on screen. The screen gets very, very busy with lots and lots of bots. They can do the job, they're just very, very, very busy. And now going back to our circuit factory, what you'll see here is that the nice outcome is that we have a full, essentially, yellow belt here. Now, we can get faster just by upgrading this whole to red belt, because that's double the throughput, which means instead of 9 of these, I would need 18 of these assembly machine 2s. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Everything from here onwards, I essentially don't need, because it's like 8.3. So I could just basically delete that recipe, and delete that recipe, and delete this one, and essentially we should be able to maintain that yellow belt. The other way that I would probably scale this up if I were going to do it, and we will have to rebuild this after doing more episodes, is maybe something along the lines of build it around the iron line. Because if we flip this around, if we mirror it top to bottom, so the copper line's coming in the bottom as well, we should be able to get another 9 in a fairly compact space. You know, you can imagine that's not too hard. That would get us 2 yellow belts, or more importantly, it could get us 1 red belt. So we'd take the 2 yellow belts and we'd combine them around here or something. They'd all hit both into one section. And then we do red belt from there onwards, because that's double the speed. So it can take a full both lane yellow belt onto a single side of a red belt and still run at full speed. And then you can run red belt all the way up here on the so-called main bus. Or indeed, you just have 2 entirely independent lines of red belts. Entirely up to you how you actually scale it up, but I just wanted to give an illustration in this episode of how you take something and problem solve your way through it. You can do it visually with bottleneck. It's a lot harder to do it visually if you don't have bottleneck, because you're looking in here, or you're looking at the activity of the inserters. Yeah, it's not great. Or you can do it mathematically, and one of those 2 methods will work for you. People who don't like maths probably think the second method is insane, particularly when you start thinking about crafting speeds and recipe speeds, and we've not even got to the further complication, which is later on in the research, which is things like beacons, and that's things like bots, because they all have different speeds that they can move stuff around. The beacons can affect things. They have a range. You have to change around how everything's put together. If you want to see that kind of thing, let me know in the comments. I'd like to hear what your opinion is. What do you want to see? Do you want to see me start again, or do you want to see me do more stuff on the base? I mean, I can have an example. I'm not sure if we got uranium. In fact, let me just, while I think on, let me just put a couple of radars down so that all the area will actually start exploring, and we can start having a look for some of that uranium. If it is on this seed, I can never remember whether it was or not. I may have to look back through the first episode again. Let's just put that down, doesn't matter where. There they go. They can just start exploring the map. Unless there's any stone, iron, Haven't seen any uranium yet. But it couldn't be out of the starting area, which means it wouldn't be shown on the map anyway. So I will see if that comes up for the next episode. And we're just about out of time for this episode. We are coming up to the half-an-hour mark. So if you've got any comments, if you've got any questions, if any of this is confusing, do let me know in the comments. This episode is more of a helping episode to enable you to problem solve and figure things out. If you have any specific problems, more than welcome to get in touch, and I'll see what I can actually do. Of course, I'm not really an expert at this game either. I just play, well, I used to play quite a lot of it. But again, I'm always capable of forgetting things. So if I've got anything wrong, please do put it in the comments as well. Otherwise, if you like the episode, feel free to like it. Feel free to subscribe and get notifications by clicking on the bell. Otherwise, we will see you next time for some more Factorio. As always, guys, thanks for watching.